Abhijit,
Yes.
you've read a lot of history. I'm sure you'd be aware of this. It wasn't mentioned. When the World War started, I think in World War One, that is,
Yes.
in right earnest was the early September or late August, something like that. But before that, Gandhi had started from South Africa to go to England, and the war was declared while he was still on board.
Yes.
When he landed, he found the war had been declared, and so he chose to and was also stuck for a while. Now, from September to December, this guy who would be, making all kinds of noise day in and day out for 4 months before he came back to India, towards the end of 1914 or early 1919, there was not a squeak out of him. Not a squeak out of him. And speculation is, and I think with reason, they'd worked out some kind of deal with the Brits. That's all lots of people who have read a lot of history say.
Okay.
I say that too, sir.
So what happened was that he actually campaigned for Indians to join the war effort, to donate for the war effort while he was in England. And if you look back into Gandhi's history, he was a lieutenant, I think. He had some kind of an official military position in the South African during the Boer War. Yes, he was an ambulance driver.
During Boer War, his role was only to provide service and all that, not recruit people.
He petitioned and pleaded to the British to allow Indians to fight in service of the empire. He was not allowed to do that. So at that time, he was perfectly fine with warfare and violence.
Stretchers were war wounded.
Yeah, he drove ambulances and carried stretchers and all that. Yes. So Gandhi, I mean, he's a very complex and fascinating personality. There are lots of contradictions. So, I mean, even during the World War, when Indian soldiers were enlisted to fight for the British, he did not protest that either. So that's true.
And he couldn't recruit anybody in England, in India anyway.
Yeah.
Most of his, just kind of get here. The Brits had to resort to actually, taking people by force.
Conscripting them, yes. That's right.
Don't you see a pattern here? Like Gandhi was earlier pro-war, and then he became anti-British. Jinnah was earlier pro-Hindu-Muslim unity, and then he goes on for a separate nation. This contradiction is not there in Ataturk. So does this make a great leader?
Well, that's a good question. Excellent question. The thing you have to see is that when a leader says something, when somebody who's a leader says something, you should ignore what they say and just observe their actions. See, Gandhi opposed partition till the very end. He was vociferous in his opposition to partition. Nehru and Patel got tired of Gandhi, got tired of listening to him. Patel himself was anti-partition, but when he saw that it's inevitable, he went with it. But Gandhi was vociferous and vocal in his opposition to the partition. And yet, when partition happened, you know what Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan said to Gandhi? You have thrown us to the wolves. So why did Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan say that to somebody who opposed partition vociferously? And why did he not blame the British? You see, Gandhi was a very, very powerful and influential person. One word from him could have set the entire nation aflame. So he could have mobilized the whole nation with just one word. What he was doing was basically virtue signaling. I oppose partition. I oppose partition. Why don't you act? Why don't you stand up and ask the people to stop the partition? Right? Ask the people to go out in the streets.
Downright dishonest. Actually, in June, he said, "Oh, my dead body," but he let it happen.
He let it happen, exactly.
So it wasn't over his dead body. So the guy was being dishonest.
Exactly. See, he did not do anything to stop partition. He just kept saying that I oppose partition. If you oppose it, why don't you do something about it? And he was very much in a position to do something about it. He was very powerful.
Constancy of purpose is one of the hallmarks of a great leader.
See, opinions change. Your views change. When you're 20 years old, you're not really mature. When you're 40, you may have a totally different worldview. This happens to all of us. So that's not a very big issue. The issue is, whom do you serve, and do you actually serve their interests, or do you say that you serve their interests and you are serving somebody else's interests? That's what we need to look at, and that's what we need to examine from their actions, not from their words. So clearly, Gandhi has we need to examine him in more detail, right? Yeah.
You talked about the Turkish origin of India's party.
Yes.
But if you consider India's Muslims named Sir Syed Ahmad Khan,
Mhm.
he in 1885 gave this theory of Indian Muslims and Indian Hindus and Muslims are two nations.
Two nation theory. Do Qawmi Nazariya.
Yes, exactly. So Khilafat might have a cascading effect on India's Muslim psyche that okay, we may have to go for this Pakistan theory and all, but the origin in the Indian Muslim psyche, it was Shah Syed Ahmad Khan. How do you see his role in this partition?
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was, it was sometime in the 19th century, right? Yeah. So the thing is that at that time, the people of India is a vast country, and it was not integrated and united by information did not reach everywhere very fast. So people sitting in one corner of India will not know what's happening in the other corner of India. And that's why it was very difficult to build unity, especially among a so-called minority population. So I would think, I would guess, I would imagine that even though Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was promoting this particular narrative, it may not have reached, it may not have pervaded throughout the country, right? But when Gandhi supported the Khilafat movement, it became a nationwide phenomenon.
And force multiplier.
Exactly, a force multiplier. So that's what galvanized the entire thing. It did start, the Do Qawmi Nazariya did originate with Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, but this is the trigger, the catalytic event that precipitated partition. And especially, of course, we know that the British supported it. If the British did not support it, or if Gandhi opposed it, it would not have happened.
British kept Gandhi alive. There were 40 books being published across the world outside India till recently. I don't know now how it is happening. And I think Gandhi was, as we learned to love Gandhi through Ben Kingsley movie, and then later it is like he was a deconstruct of the person who was propped actually, and he was totally against the idea of eternal India, Bharat. You know, he actually ravished this country into ahimsa and non-practical things, and he actually finished. He was the most hinsak, he was the most violent person.
Why do you say so?
He finished Netaji Subhash.
Mm-hmm.
He finished Bhagat Singh.
Mm-hmm.
He finished Veer Savarkar. And they become the sidekicks.
Let me give you an example. When India got independence, the Congress party elected somebody as the Prime Minister. What did Gandhi do? He arm twisted the Congress by saying that I will go on fast until death. He said that you need to select my guy as Prime Minister, and he forced Sardar Patel to withdraw. So, is this ahimsa? The thing is, does non-violence actually work the way Gandhi prescribed it? Do you know what Gandhi advised the Jews?
Yeah.
He advised the Jews to sacrifice their lives in mass.
He did that for the Hindus as well.
He did that for the Hindus as well. Noakhali
In
riots.
1990,
Bhopla riots, yeah.
1990, if Muslims must kill us, we must offer ourselves, is what he went on record to.
So we need to understand what leadership really is, right? We need to be able to decide whether a leader needs to look a certain way. Does the leader need to be tall and speak in a loud voice, or can a leader do something else?
Action only, action and results.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Ataturk was burning, and then there was population exchange and all of this, and then suddenly he turns against Islam. I'm not able to. Is that what happened, right? You said.
He was never for Islam.
But the population exchange between Greece and Turkey.
He was trying to create a homogeneous nation of Turkish-speaking people.
But
to a
was
Turkish
Turkish
culture.
speaking equal to religion as well in his mind?
No.
Because 19% went down to 2.5%, and those original Christians, Armenians or Greeks, they were not Turkics in his mind.
They were not, yeah. See, what happened was that his aim was to establish a homogeneous society. Many events happened that actually helped his cause, but he did not participate in that. For example, the Armenian genocides, that was a horrible event that totally eradicated the Christian Armenians from Anatolia and Turkey. And again, this the Turkish War of Independence after the Greek invasion, that also ensured that all the Greeks are driven out. So these things, I mean, he was not. If you examine his life, he was never pro-Islam. He did not believe in Islam, but he was practical. So if the population is acting in a certain way, he did not really come in their way. He let it happen. So he was a practical leader.
Now question is, if Gandhi would not have supported Nehru, then the right man would have get a place. And the fittest person was that
Jinnah. In your
Jinnah. Jinnah was very, very intelligent, high level of smart, intelligent and all those qualities, and he was a very much international person.
Mhm.
Now the root cause lies there. And there was an interview by Attlee in the governor's house. Why did you leave India when India was the crown jewel? Did you leave for Gandhi? No, he said. We left because of Netaji, because everybody gone against Navy, Army, even every institution.
Yes, yes.
So
We
we
could
move-
not keep anybody. That's why we have to leave. It is not for Gandhi. Gandhi had no contribution. In fact, he destroyed everything. And I am a great supporter of the person who killed him. Not that I am a murderer, but he was a nice person who killed him. And he said, I am killing it, people will say I am a murderer. But he was a quite postgraduate person. He was writing magazines and he had done enough good jobs. Now, our entire history has to be rewritten. And once we rewrite, then search our heart and find out what has gone wrong. If you try to get through, then possibly our good things will come.
Correct.
Ah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a little objection to
Sure.
Jinnah being the right man. The reason basically being that had India not partitioned, we would have had a very large Muslim population. And I've asked this question and raised this multiple times. If India were today in the new political entity called India now were to become 80% Muslim, will India remain? Would its value systems, the cultural heritage or the civilizational values remain? Absolutely not. So, I mean, the civilizational values have to be protected, which I also did not
So
see
how
in
do
your
we do
slide.
that? That's the question.
Yeah, sorry, we'll have to, basically the constitution has to be changed, and I'm a complete advocate of a Hindu Rashtra. There is no other way to protect the civilization, even from the change of, or even from the change of demographics. Even if we were to remain secular and all of this business, the rise of, we are at a point, in another 1 or 2 years, our overall population growth, especially the Hindu growth, will fall to about 1.9, which is not even replacement rate. The Muslim population growth is at about 3.4 in the country, in various parts. So the demographic change is inevitable. If we do not do something about it now, we cannot protect the.
The thing is, how do you change the constitution? There's an entire mechanism that
Yes, of
doesn't allow you to
course.
do
I
that,
mean, there has to be firstly a very large scale awakening of Hindus in
It will never happen as long as the textbooks keep
Yes.
telling you lies.
yeah.
I had a question about the partition and how it came about for like 2-3 months. It's an open-ended question for you, if you have any views on this. So, to demand partition, Jinnah and Muslim League gave a circular to all the Muslims of India that they are to continue atrocities on Hindus,
Yes.
specifically Hindus, until we get an acceptance for special, separate Islamic
correct.
country, right? Now, my question is that in that particular situation, what would have been a reasonable way of going about it to check that? Because, see, I'm not saying Gandhi was good, I'm not saying he was right, so and so was wrong. That's not my question at all, right? My question is realistically thinking, going back. Now, the mechanism with which this was carried out was planned violence by Muslims. They were armed. They were fully aware of what they were doing. They were fully aware of reasons for which they were doing. They started it in the month of Ramadan. But Hindus were unaware. And
Yes.
Hindus were unarmed. And at that time, because it was still the British government which was in charge, at that time, the so-called forces which could have prevented it were the British. The police and the government, army, everything was in the hands of the British. And they obviously did not want to check partition, right? So they did not do anything. So in that situation, was there a sensible, a reasonable mechanism for Hindu leaders, including perhaps Gandhi, to actually check that? Or was partition just a way to sort of just stop that violence and the genocide of Hindus? There's a question for which I don't have any fixed answer yet. It's an open-ended question. I just wanted to know your views on it, if you have it.
So Gandhi was essentially given an ultimatum: partition or civil war, right? And he
And
chose
Jinnah said that we will, if you want war, we will have war.
Yeah.
Take this-
Civil war, right? We will have a civil war and it will eventually end in a partition. That's what he had said. So the option is partition or civil war, and Gandhi chose partition. There is another leader who had the same choice. His name was Abraham Lincoln. Partition or civil war. He chose civil war. So there are times when violence is justified. There are just causes for war.
My question was, did partition do more damage, or would that civil war have done more damage and more?
That's exactly what he's answering.
No, I'm not answering that. See, I don't know how to evaluate that. See, a war has a limited temporal impact. It devastates a country possibly for a limited amount of time, and then you rebuild. A partition the partition which happened, it is a civil war that's still going on. It's a nuclear-armed civil war. So, have we really been able to solve the problem that Gandhi sought to solve by partitioning the country? We have not. We have a separate country called Pakistan that does not wish us to live in peace. It wants to destroy us. And the demographic problem that the partition sought to solve still exists. So partition did not solve anything, right? In my opinion. It solved nothing. The problems still remain.
पार्टीशन कुछ ऐसा होगा कि शतुर्मुर्ग की तरह सब मतलब अपना सर जो है जमीन में डाल दिया ये सोच करके कि अभी तो कुछ हो नहीं रहा है देख लेंगे बाद में.
So what's the thinking of the leaders at that time? I mean, I feel like my personal opinion is that at that time the leaders did not have much vision. They did not even estimate the amount of damage it can do. I'm not saying Gandhi. I'm saying all the Hindu leaders, because if they wanted, they could have Gandhi was in his place, but the other leaders of the country could have still put up a force, could have still put up a fight.
See, all the prominent leaders, Hindus, Muslims, all of them of that time, where most of them were from the Congress ecosystem, right? We have to remember what the Congress is. It was created by Alan Hume, an Englishman. It was always chaperoned and shepherded by English people. The members of the Congress were mostly British-educated, English-speaking people. You would not see a vernacular-speaking person rising to prominence in the Congress, except for somebody like Patel. That's a black sheep. That's a outlier. So the Congress party itself was created by the British to steer the independence movement of India in a certain direction. And all the Hindu leaders that you mentioned came from that particular mindset. There may have been other people with differing opinions, but they never gained any traction. Their views never gained any traction.
Power to basically make a change.
They had no influence. They could not reach out to people.
Taking from the life from Ataturk, do you think that if, let's say, we had somebody who was more culturally oriented and who understood the Indian values and Indian culture, and who probably had become, instead of, what the role which Gandhi played, so then probably despite the Muslim population, we could have had a very different, cultural fabric built into, because what Ataturk did, probably was that despite having a Islamic background, he was able to change, the course of their history and, the future by, abolishing, like you said, Arabic, bringing in Latin and all that. So was there a possibility at that point in time that we could have been a very different, we could have evolved very differently?
The possibility always exists, but you need the right person. You need the right kind of person at the right kind of time to do that. Even today, anything can happen, but you need the right person. I mean, there have been great leaders in the past, but if a country is going through a certain situation, but it does not have the right kind of person to guide it and direct it, then nothing can happen. And if it does have a person, then no matter how bad the situation is, it can come out of it. So I would say it was possible for India to have gone in a completely different direction from what we are now. So it was very possible. Just imagine if Bose was there, for example. If Bose had succeeded, then I don't know what might have happened. I've heard that he had plans of imposing a dictatorship for 20 years.
Benevolent dictatorship.
A benevolent dictatorship. Lee Kuan Yew or Ataturk.
His words were benevolent dictatorship.
Yeah, right. So different things can happen depending on who comes to power.
Okay, we'll end with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.